Hello YouTube, again this is Prophet D.Howard Jr. with another broadcast for you, and my purposes and goals are that you learn the truth, and I always hope that you will do your own research and that you will look past all the meaningless details of these broadcasts and learn truth and take the things I say, even if you have to rewind, if you have to pause, take the things that I say, write them down, record them, do Google searches, go to libraries, go to bookstores, what else you have to do. But you should give yourself and your family the entire truth and not just try to fit in with people like most people do. People think that because a church is crowded, oh, this man must be preaching the truth. And maybe he has people that know how to work cameras. I don't. Maybe he has people that know how to edit videos. I don't. But you should give yourself the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And the truth is that there's more false teachers in the world than true prophets. That most people calling themselves prophets don't even know what a prophet's purpose is. Today's prophet will rarely even have private interpretations. Now, sometimes you may see, every now and then, I may have a private interpretation that I've written down that the Most High was putting upon my heart. But for the most part, I'm coming straight from the Scripture. 99% of the time, straight from the Scripture, or books that should have been in the Scripture. But I want to start a series of false teachings in the Christian faith, which I'm basically in the process of writing a book about the same title, because like I tell you before, if you look at some of my older videos, you hear me using the name Jesus and the term the Lord and things of that nature. But as you get closer to the present day, you see that some of the teachings that I taught in the original videos have changed. And the reason why they've changed, because I do research. I search Hebrew words, Greek words, Hebrew alphabet, Greek alphabet, words, history, mythological beliefs, other religions. I do all of that. And I've come to some conclusions that some of the things that I've been taught were false, and some of the things that people are teaching today are false. And the first one I want to get into is this whole thing about tithing. This whole thing about tithing. Tithing is giving 10% of what you have and what you earn. And tithing is something that they did do in the Old Testament. But I want to go into some scriptures and show you exactly what tithing was. Starting with Matthew chapter 23, verse 23. Matthew 23, verse 23. It says this. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees. Please understand something. The main people that focus on tithes are modern day Pharisees. Hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. One of the reasons why we have this homosexual and lesbian problem in the Christian church community is because, like he said, they omit the weightier matters of the law. Judgment. Judging sin. Judging righteous judgments against sin and against transgression, inequity, and shortcoming. Because, let's face it, they say homosexuals are some of the most affluent people in the world. And these guys know that some of these people are homosexual. And I was watching a guy by the name of Neo196. I was on his channel, and I was watching a video, and I was listening to the interview in the video, and the guy was in Atlanta, and he said that a lot of the preachers at MegaFest were dropping their wives off and were picking up other guys to have sex with them. And that's not the first person, it's not the first thing or the first time that I heard such things about these Christian conferences. But number one, Everybody is going to have to conquer pornography. If you have not conquered it, you will have to conquer it. Just like you're going to have to conquer all other sexual sin and all other sin in general. But some of these preachers who demand tithe know that they have these people in their churches, and they say nothing because they omit the weightier matters of judgment, like he said, mercy and faith. Yeah, you're supposed to have mercy, but you have to keep mercy in this context. Mercy does not mean you do not confront, because the scripture says if you who are spiritual should restore such a one in meekness. Restore, not allow him to continue, not allow him to contaminate your church, not allow her to contaminate your church with gossip or with lesbianism or with whatever else is going on in the church. He said the scribes and Pharisees, they want to focus on money. Remember, he said they which justify themselves before men. These guys make up stories to get people to give money. And it's funny, because if you look at the main mega churches that's on TV and on the radio, you see people bringing money to the stairs and throwing it down there like they're a stripper or something that done did a good dance. Just throwing the money down there. Here, take this money. I like what you just said. Like what you just did. That's what the church has become. And these are some of the things that have led me to seek truth, to seek more truth. I remember a time where I preached a sermon in a church that I used to belong to, with people that came to hear me preach, and they wanted to be a blessing to me financially. But the pastor took the money. I was in the treasury, me and my wife, we counted the money, we calculated what it was. The pastor came back there, took the money, folded it up, and put it right in his pocket. Right in his pocket. That's the type of stuff that's going on. And the same pastor commands a tithe and will threaten you with financial harm from the Most High if you don't tithe. Now let's go to Malachi chapter 3, verse 10. Malachi 3 and 10. The famous scripture that they love to go to. Now I'm going to show you something. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house. And prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts. Well, it should be Yah, but this is what the scripture says. If I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith the Lord of hosts. And all nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be a delightsome land, saith the Lord of hosts. Now I know personally that I tithed for years. And there's many people who have never tithed that have higher incomes than I have, and that I had. So what does that tell you? The Most High is truth. So if something doesn't come to pass, then it has to either be your faith or your belief or something else. But the scripture says in Deuteronomy 8 and 18 that he gives us the power to get wealth. He gives us the power to get wealth. And it says that if you keep his statutes and keep his commandments, he listed all these blessings in Deuteronomy 28. And Psalm 1 it says that if we meditate on the law day and night, whatever we do shall prosper. It says nothing about tithe. Now if you notice in Malachi 3, again, that he was talking about meat. That there may be meat in my house. Now guess what? It don't take the tithe of 1,000 people to have some food in a congregation. It just don't. And anybody that believes that is crazy anyway. Because if I give $10 and 20 other people give $10, then that's $200. That's what? $210 that we can spend to feed the poor. But guess what? A lot of churches, a lot of congregations nowadays don't even have a food pantry. A lot of congregations nowadays, you see the tithe go in you see the Bentleys come out. That's just the way it is. The preacher takes the tithe in most cases and spends that tithe on himself and on his family, and does nothing similar to Acts chapter 4 verses 32 through 37. I saw videos of some preachers in other cities that would try to videotape themselves giving people cars and stuff like that. But the cars are never the cars that they drive. One in particular preacher had a drop-top BMW, and he was giving people Ford Tauruses. And I had a Ford Taurus. I never had a BMW, but I could look at it and tell that it don't ride like no Taurus. Now, I had a Taurus that was breaking down all over town. So these are some of the types of games that go on. The first point that I want to make about tithing is that he talked about meat and fruit. Now in Leviticus 27 and 30 it says, and all the tithe of the Lord, pay close attention, Leviticus 27 and 30, and all the tithe of the Lord, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is holy unto the Lord. The tithe did not consist of money. Remember, the seed of the land, the fruit of the tree, he said, is of the Lord. Now, if you read Matthew 25 verses 14 through 30 yourself, you come away with the conclusion that a lot of pastors fall into that category of the unprofitable servant. What he said the unprofitable servant does. In 1 John chapter 3, moving right along, in 1 John chapter 3, it says the following. Now tell me, does this describe your pastor? Take in 500,000, give out 500. Keep 300,000 for the car, so on and so forth. 1 John chapter 3, verse 16 says, hereby perceive we the love of Yah, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. But whoso hath this world's good, and seeth his brother have need, and shutteth up his bowels of compassion from him, how dwelleth the love of Yah in him? We see Yahushua feeding thousands of people. Thousands of people. He said it's not good that they go away hungry. But you see guys, just pay your tithe and believe God that he'll open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. Never mind that it's the winter time and your kids need a coat. You're supposed to lay down your lives for the brother. We're supposed to, it says, by this shall men know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. But a lot of people is turning away from Christian churches because of the favoritism and because of the materialism and because of the homosexuality and many other things. You got preachers like Eddie Long, for example. You're talking about paying God, but then you pay guys off that you having anal sex with the tithe that people been giving you for years. You got people that bring a dude that they friends with or that they partners with secretly and have them selling spiritual slot machines in their church. I mean, there's all types of things going on in the church, but most people continue to flock to them. You need to come out of that Christian belief, that traditional Christian church, and learn about the way and just follow the Messiah himself. I'm not saying you can't never attend a church or a wedding or whatever, but you need to learn tithing is not required. Tithing is false. The teaching of tithing is false. And tithing did not consist of money. It consists of seed, spices, livestock. Leviticus 27 and 30, several scriptures will show you. So when you give, live right, give your first, give your best. And don't never give to receive anything. That's false. And I'm going to show you some more on part 2 of this broadcast. Continue to tune in. I want to talk a little more about this whole tithing issue.